This is Chapter 5, Lesson 5, Simplify Algebraic Expressions. So, we can identify parts of an expression. When addition or subtraction signs separate an algebraic expression into parts, each part is called a blank. In that blank, you're going to write term. Recall that the numerical factor of a term that contains a variable is called the blank of the variable. In that blank, you're going to write coefficient. Blank blank contain the same variables to the same powers. In those two blanks, you're going to write like terms. So like terms contain the same variables to the same powers. For example, 3x squared and negative 7x squared are like terms. The reason that they're like terms is they both have an x squared. Okay. So our 8xy squared and 12xy squared, again, they have the same variables raised to the same powers. But x squared z and 22xz squared are not like terms. Notice here the x is raised to the second power, and in this one, the z is raised to the second power. A term without a variable is called a blank. In that blank, you're going to write constant. Constant terms are also like terms. So for example, 3 and 5 are like terms because they're both constants. Okay, so if I have 3 terms, I have negative 4x plus 12 plus x. So each one of these is a term. So each one of these is a term. Okay. 12 is a constant because it has no variable attached to it. And negative 4x and x are like terms because they're both x values. So I want to identify the terms, like terms, coefficients, and constants in the expression 6n minus 7n minus 4 plus n. So I have a couple things I'm looking for. I want the terms, the like terms, the coefficients, and the constants. Okay? Now these can be more than one thing, just so you know. So each one of these are terms. Okay, so the terms, 6n, negative 7n, negative 4, and n. Notice I take whatever sign is right out in front of that term. Okay? My like terms, remember like terms have to have the same variable raised to the same power, are 6n, negative 7n, and n because they all have an n in them. So these are like terms. Okay, so those are my like terms. My coefficients are any numbers in front of my variables. So my coefficients are 6, negative 7, and 1. So 6, negative 7, and 1. The reason one is a coefficient is because it's in front of the n. It's an imaginary 1 in front. Okay? And then my last thing is my constants. My constant is negative 4 because that's the only term that does not have a variable attached to it. So that's my constant. Okay. My second example, I want to write 4y plus y in simplest form. So 4y and y are terms, and they're like terms because they both have a y. So I have 4 y's here, and I have 1 y here. So how many y's do I have total? 5. I have 5 y's because I have 4 here and 1 here. So my total is 5y. My third example says the cost of a jacket J after a 5% markup can be represented by the expression J plus 0.05J. Simplify the expression. Then determine the total cost of the jacket after the markup if the original price is $35. So the first thing I want to do is I want to recognize that there's a 1 in front of this J. So I can add these together because they're like terms. 1 plus 0.05 gives me 1.05, and then the J tags along. Okay. Now I want to know if the original cost is $35. So the cost of the jacket is $35. So I'm going to put in 35 for J. So I have $1.05 times 35, which gives me $36.75. So the cost of the jacket after a 5% markup is $36.75. I can also simplify algebraic expressions. So an algebraic expression is in blank, blank. In those two blanks, you're going to write simplest form if it has no like terms and no parentheses. Use the distributive property to combine like terms. So there are a couple of try it problems on this page. I want you to go ahead, pause the video, and try them out. And when you're done, we will go over the answers together. All right, now that you've tried the try it problems, let's go over the answers together. The first try it problem says, identify the terms, like terms, coefficients, and constants in the expression. 9y minus 4 minus 11y plus 7. So I'm looking for my terms, my like terms, my coefficients, and my constants. Okay. So I'm going to go over here, work out this problem a little bit. All right. So my equation or my expression is 9y minus 4 minus 11y plus 7. So the first thing I want to look at is my terms. Okay. Each one of these is a term. So I have 9y, negative 4, negative 11y, and 7. Okay. Next, I want to look at my like terms. Okay. So my like terms are 9y and negative 11y. Okay. Then I also have negative 4 and 7. They're like terms because they're constants. So I can have two, you can have more than one set of like terms. Okay. The next thing I'm looking at is my coefficients. So my coefficients are my numbers out in front of my variables. So 9 is a coefficient, and negative 11 is a coefficient. Then the last thing I'm looking for is my constants. Okay? And my constants, remember, are anything that don't have a variable attached to them. So for example, negative 4 is a constant, and positive 7 as a constant. So negative 4 and 7. Okay. And that's the answer for number 1. My second try it problem says write 6 minus 3n plus 3n in simplest form. Okay, so I'm looking for my like terms. My like terms are negative 3n and n. Well, if I have 3n and I take away 3n, I have no n's left. So they go away and I'm left with 6. Number 3 says write an expression in simplest form for the cost of the jacket J if the markup is 8%. Then determine the total cost after the markup. The original price of the jacket is $35. So I have the original cost of the jacket plus the 8% markup of the jacket. So that's my expression. J plus 0.08, that's where the 8% comes from. J. If I simplify this, this gives me 1.08J. Now the original price of the jacket is $35, so I plug that in for J. And then I multiply. 1.08 times 35 gives me $37.80. And that is the end of lesson 5.